God's day one by one. Good day to all the wallastics, plastics, and apples out there. Kamusta na po kayo? So this is Epalastic Conrad, and we're back to our program. This is me, Real Stories of Real People. We are now on episode 33 at usapang politics po ulit tayo ngayon. So it's about the 2022 Presidentiables, one of the Presidentiables. So na-discuss na natin before uh, si Isko Moreno, si Bongbong Marcos, si VP Lenny. So right now, ang nakasalang po sa atin ngayon or yung isasalang natin for today ay si Panfilo Ping Lacson Sr. So yan. So I don't know kung may makakasama po ako ngayon dahil may mga sari-sariling schedules yung aking mga co-hosts. Kaya for now, pagtsagaan niyo muna ako. This might be another solo show for now. In-update ko lang po yung ating banner. Ayan. Okay, so again, by the way, this is Conrad and I'm from Cavite. So, umpisahan na natin ito. Nabubulol-bulol pa ako. So, parang medyo iba yung tama ng aking boses ngayon dahil sobrang naging busy kahapon sa maraming ganap. Kaya, ayan. Pero at least nagising-gising ng maaga-aga ngayon. Unlike before na talagang sinusulit yung pagtulog. So, ayan. So, idiretso na natin ito. So, again, our discussion is about Panfilo Ping Lacson Sr. Why or why not him? Sa ating pagpili ng susunod na presidente ng Pilipinas. So, also, nakita ko rin po post sa Facebook na today, April 9 ay araw ng kagitingan kaya somehow applicable yung nakasalang natin na presidentiable kasi si Ping Lacson ay isa sa matuturing natin na isa sa magigiting na politiko. Well, for me. Kaya somehow pasok siya. Araw ng kagitingan ngayon, April 9. And by tomorrow, if I'm remembering it right, April 10 po ang start ng absentee voting dito sa Saudi Arabia. So again, correct me if I'm wrong sa ating mga manonood dyan. So yun, kaya hopefully ay makatulong po ang programang ito para ma-evaluate nyo po ang inyong mga iboboto. Especially kung may napupusuan na kayo ngayon, maybe it's time to re-evaluate yung ating napupusuan at tingnan yung mga background ng ating mga presidentiables at lahat po ng mga tatakbo sa posisyon sa Pilipinas. Mula presidente, pababa. Ayan. So, pasensya lahat. Naririnig nyo ang kahol ni Pepper. So, yan. So, umpisa na natin ito. Speaking of background. So, yan yung ating actually, the content of all this, the program that we'll be having today is about the background of our candidate. And that is, again, Panfilo Ping Lacson Sr. Okay, so umpisa na natin. So somehow nagkaroon po ako ng time na makapag-research or makapaghanap ng materials online. So I was able to find seven back-to-back pages somehow, except yung last page. So 7 pages of materials about Panfilo Ping Lacson. And hopefully po ay makisama yung aking signal at yung aking laptop. Dahil, again, solo program lang tayo ngayon. Mahirap na mahulog dahil uulit tayo sa ating pagla-live. So, yeah. Check ko lang yung aking mga gadgets dito na nakapalibot sa akin. Ayan, so umpisa na natin. So, the complete name of Ping Lacson is Panfilo Ping Morena Lacson Sr. or again, popularly known as, bubulol ako, as Ping Lacson. I don't know kung ano yung background ng Ping Lacson pero syempre yung pangalan niya is Panfilo. So most likely doon siya nagmula. Pero I don't know, hindi ko naisipang i-research bakit Ping nga ba at hindi ko naman makakausap si Ping Lacson para tanungin sa kanya kung bakit Ping ang kanyang palayaw at hindi ko pa rin napanood yung mga debates na naglalabasan ngayon. I don't know kung naging topic din yun kung bakit pink ang kanyang palayaw. Anyway, so yan. So unahin ko munang i-share sa inyo yung aking nabasa or nakita online about him sa kanyang 2022 presidential campaign. Okay. So ayon sa aking nabasa, on February 8, 2022, during his proclamation rally in his hometown of Imos, Cavite, so ako po ay taga Cavite, Lacson stressed his platform will be based on uplifting the lives of Filipinos by fixing the ills of government, ayusin ang gobyerno, ayusin ang buhay ng bawat Pilipino, and getting rid of thieves, especially those in the government. So uubusin ang magnanakaw. Lacson said promoting transparency and stopping corruption will be his priority should he be elected. He said he would do this by enforcing discipline in the bureaucracy. To emphasize the premium he puts on transparency, Lacson said he will sign a waiver of his rights to the bank secrecy law and encourage all government officials and employees to do the same. This act of leadership by example will set the pro-transparency and anti-corruption tone for his administration. So alam naman natin yan. I believe kahit sa ang panig ng buong mundo, sa politika o sa gobyerno, malaking problema talaga ang corruption. So parang ngayon ko lang, simula nang ako'y nagkaisip sa usapang politics, parang ngayon lang ako nakakita ng politicians na hindi yung ano mo yun, yung usual na sinasabi na ang sagot sa problema ng bayan ay ang taong bayan. Yung mga ganun ba, yung typical na dramatic na pangangampanya na kayo ang sagot sa problema ng lipunan, something like that, na taong bayan ang kasagutan. Ayan. So first time ko lang po na narinig sa isang politiko na for me, tinumbok talaga paano nga ba talaga yung problema ng Pilipinas, especially ng ating gobyerno. With the current situation, or I mean, it's been happening for years now, ang problema naman talaga is gobyerno. So yung mga tao na nasa gobyerno, at alam natin yan, especially yung mga government officials who are so entitled with their position na kailangan mo silang tratuhing hari o reyna, or kailangan mong tratuhing prinsipe o prinsesa, na parang tayo pa yung palaging makikiusap every time na nalalapit tayo sa kanila and all, na in reality, dapat sila ngayon nagsiserve. Diba? Public service nga na dapat sila yung naglilingkod sa taong bayan, hindi yung tayo yung nagsusumamo pa, nagbibeg with our concerns and all. So yun yung reality. At kaya agree din ako sa kanyang plataforma na ang problema talaga ay ang gobyerno at ang solusyon ay ang gobyerno. Though given naman yun na yung taong bayan yung nagluluklok sa mga nasa tao sa gobyerno. Pero once na nakaupo na kasi yung mga politiko natin, mga politicians natin, wala na. Nababaliwala na kadalasan yung ating mga mamamayan. Sobrang bihirang-bihira lang yung mga politicians or yung mga nasa posisyon ng tunay na nagki-care, nangangalaga sa ating mga mamamayan. Kaya again, as I mentioned, parang ilang beses ko lang inulit na agree ako kay Ping Lacson in terms of his platform na ang solusyon or ang problema ay ang gobyerno at ang solusyon ay ang gobyerno. Kaya kailangan ayusin ang gobyerno at yung mga taong nasa gobyerno. So, sa pagpapatuloy ng aking binabasa, so yan, Lacson likewise vowed to undertake a massive internal cleansing of the bureaucracy, going first after those with pending cases involving corruption and negligence. He stressed as well a Filipino first policy. If I'm remembering it right, Carlos P. Romulo nga po ba yung naging presidente? Carlos P. Garcia pala. Carlos P. Garcia, yung naging presidente ng Pilipinas na alam ko sa kanya nanggaling ito, yung Filipino first policy. Granting incentives to local industries for prioritizing local production and labor. Kung hindi rin ako nagkakamali na very supportive si Ping Lacson sa local businesses. Alam ko, fini-feature niya yun sa sa bawat campaign niya na kapag may pinupuntahan siyang lugar to campaign, ay pinofront niya yung mga local products. I don't know if I'm correct on that, pero parang may mga nakita akong posts about it. So the Filipino First policy extends to the agriculture sector and food security to protect Filipino farmers and fishermen. So may concern ang presidentiable natin na sa Lacson sa ating mga fishermen and farmers. Na actually, na-realize ko na rin ito years ago na we all know that the Philippines is an agricultural country. Kaya yung sort of industrialization, hindi talaga siya masyadong applicable, pero syempre malaki yung naitulong din ng industrialization. Pero sayang yung opportunity na gaya ng Vietnam or Thailand na I believe nag-invest po sila sa agricultural sector ng kanilang bansa. And nakita naman natin, especially Thailand, na alam ko okay ang kanilang ekonomiya because of that. And again, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not an expert on the subject. Kaya sana yun yung naging focus ng Pilipinas kasi we are an agricultural country. Sobrang mayaman, sa likas na yaman ang Pilipinas. At kahit saan ka nga ata magtanim sa Pilipinas, tutubo at tutubo yung itatanim mo. Kaya hopefully ma-redirect yung focus ng ating ekonomiya na mag-put emphasis sa agriculture kasi we are, again, an agricultural country. Kaya hopefully doon tayo mag-invest kasi yun yung ating asset. Okay, so Lacson said it is unacceptable that the Philippines imports galunggong or fish and vegetables that Filipino farmers are producing. Na alam ko ito ata yung problema na sobrang mababa yung presyo ng mga ini-import natin kaya namamatay yung ating local industry. So again, correct me if I'm wrong about that. So meanwhile, Lacson said he and Soto will maintain a disciplined campaign amid the pandemic, having their organizers and supporters observe health protocols. Lacson is the first to declare his bid for presidency. On October 8, 2021, Lacson and Tito Soto launched their bid for president and vice president respectively for the 2022 Philippine national election. Lacson and Soto vowed to provide a stronger response to the pandemic and vowed to restore public trust in the government. So yun. So kumaga from this statement, reading this statement na sila pala ang kauna-unahang nagpakita ng motibo that they will be running for office, president and vice president. So that is Lacson and Tito Soto. Na isang pagpapatunay na they are ready and committed, dedicated in their run for office. Kumbaga, they are so decided. Kaya sila yung kauna-unahang nagsabi that they will run for office. Yun po yung aking interpretation of that move. So yan, so let's proceed to the personal life of Ping Lacson na nakita natin online. So he was born on June 1, 1948. So he is age 73 now. Sana tama yung calculation. In Imus, Cavite, Philippines, the son of a bus driver. His late mother, Maxima, a market vendor, was a disciplinarian who instilled distinctions between right and wrong with her children. This grew to be a part of his motto, ang tama ipaglaban, ang mali labanan. What is right must be kept right, and what is wrong must be set right. This word served as the constant guide of Senator Panfilo Morena Lacson, who has been circumspect in matters of public interest and committed against various forms of corruption in his more than 50 years of public service in the fields of law enforcement, lawmaking, and humanitarian work. So yeah. So kumbaga dito from his life story, malalaman mo na galing sa mahirap na pamilya si Ping Lacson. So yan. So nagsumikap lang siya sa kanyang buhay, ginamit ang kanyang kakayahan, kaya maalwan na ang kanyang pamumuhay ngayon. So kaya yung mga presidentiables na nagsasabi na galing sila sa mahirap and all, na para sila sa mahirap and all, hindi lang po sila ang may ganong pinaglalaban. So even Ping Lacson nagmula sa kahirapan at umahon sa kahirapan sa pamamagitan ng pagsusumikap. Kaya sa inyo na naghahanap ng ganong klase ng presidente, Ping Lacson may be one of your choices, qualified choices. So kindly reconsider Ping Lacson. So, sa pagpapatuloy about his personal life, so ang kanyang asawa ay si Alice Diperio, at may mga issues akong nabasa about the relationship between Ping Lacson and Alice Diperio. So, sabi sa isa sa mga chismis, marites or tolits, na ano daw, Panfilo or Ping Lacson ordered the killing of his wife's ex-husband, the late Reginald Hill, in the late 70s. So yan yung chismis na akin nakita. So Lacson said he met Alice Diperio Hill on a blind date. So usong-uso pa yung blind date before, arranged by Roger Cuaderno sometime in 1973 in Sunset Village, Parañaque. At that time, Alice was already separated from Hill, who turned out to have been already married to another woman. So ano nga bang kaso yon? Concubinage. Sana tama ko. So Cuaderno, according to Lacson, would later marry Alice's sister, Emma Diperio. So ganun pala yung umpisa nila. So Alice never visited Reginald, yun po yung ex-husband ni Alice, since they were already separated at that time after Alice found out she was a victim of a bigamous marriage. Yun pala yung term, bigamous marriage. So Lacson said Reginald and his brother Roberto were driving a Toyota Corolla when they figured in a vehicular accident in April 1978. So Roberto died on the spot while Reginald expired at Las Piñas Hospital. Lacson said that police, hospital, and census records are available for verification. So sabi dito, I absolutely had nothing to do with the death of Reginald Hill. So yan po yung sabi ni Ping Lacson. So kaya, yung chismis or yung marites or tolits na pinapatay niya si Reginald Hill, so wala pong katotohanan yon. So namatay po si Reginald Hill sa isang vehicular accident or car accident. So yan. So kaya yung chismis na yon ay wala pong katotohanan. So sila po ay kinasal ayon sa aking nakita online on June 28, 1973, at they are celebrating their 48th wedding anniversary. Again, sana tama po yung calculation. So, mag-proceed naman tayo sa mga anak ni Ping Lacson. So, ang panganay I don't know kung sunod-sunod po ito, but anyway, basahin ko na lang din. So, Reginald Lacson, PAGCOR Administrator for TSD1, sana tama, Transportation Services Department, doon po nagtatrabaho. Sana tama po itong aking nakita. Then the second one is Ronald J. Lacson. So he ran for Vice Governor under the Liberal Party against Jola Revilla of Lakas Magdalo. So if I'm remembering it right, this was in 2016. Pero hindi po pinalad si Ronald J. Lacson. Ang nanalo po kasi doon ay si Jola Revilla, kung tama ako. Taga-Cavite ako pero hindi ako masyadong familiar sa mga nangyayari sa Cavite. So sabi ni Ramon Tulfo na kicked out daw ng PMA si Ronald Lacson. Pero syempre pinabulaanan niya ni Ping Lacson. So the truth is, my son resigned, Lacson said he since he never wanted, much less intended to be a military officer. We practically forced Ronald J. to enter the PMA because, like any PMA alumnus, it has been my dream that at least one of my sons would follow my footsteps. So yan po, directly from Ping Lacson. So yung sumunod ay, sa listahan ko, again, hindi ko po alam kung tama ang pagkakasunod-sunod nito. So si Panfilo Lacson Jr. So he is a businessman, owner of Buongiorno Trading. So may chismis din po ako nakita na in 2017, according to Manila Times, it was accused of smuggling cement. So yan. So, tapos na-link din po si Panfilo Lacson Jr. kay Jody Santa Maria at kay Iwamoto. So yan. Pasensya na, may mga naisisingit ako mga chismis. Then, ang pinakahuli sa listahan sa mga anak ni Ping Lacson ay si Jeric Lacson, na link naman kay Rian Ramos. So, yan. So, mga nalilink po sila sa mga artista. Okay. So, yun po yung counting background sa personal life ni Ping Lacson. So, mag-proceed na tayo sa educational background ni Ping Lacson. So, in summary, grade school in Bayang Luma Elementary School between 1954 to 1960. Then high school in Imus Institute. So shout out sa mga batchmate ko sa BS Accountancy na alam ko nag-aral din po sa Imus Institute. So that is from 1960 to 1964. Then BS Engineering in Lyceum of the Philippines. That is between 1964 to 1967. Then Bachelor of Science in Philippine Military Academy, 1967 to 1971. Then Master in Government Management in Pamantasan ng Lungsod ng Maynila, between 1995 to 1996. So yan po yung educational summary of educational background of Ping Lacson. So yung konting, how do you say this? Konting segue about the educational background of Ping Lacson. So he finished grade school at the Bayang Luma Elementary School in 1960 and high school at the Imus Institute in 1964. He completed his engineering degree at the Lyceum of the Philippines University before entering the Philippine Military Academy in 1967. While Lacson initially wanted to be an agent of the National Bureau of Investigation, he was invited by a classmate to take the entrance exams at PMA. Lacson passed, but the classmate who invited him did not. So I don't know kung sino yung kaklase na yun. Hindi siya pinangalanan. So after his graduation in 1971, Lacson was commissioned in the Philippine Constabulary, then a major service of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, responsible for maintaining... Oops. Kaya na po. Nangyari. Parang may na-open po ako na naka-mute. Teka lang po. Naghang na naman yung aking laptop, as usual. Please bear with me. Ayan. Naghang po yung aking laptop. Hopefully nakikita nyo pa ako at narinig nyo pa ako as of this moment. So, sana ngayon? So, after his graduation in 1971, Lacson was commissioned in the Philippine Constabulary, then a major service of the Armed Forces of the Philippines responsible for maintaining peace and order and enforcement of laws in the country. During the Marcos years, so that is the late Ferdinand Marcos, Lacson developed a reputation as a ruthless crime buster. In 1996, he earned a postgraduate degree of Master in Government Management from the Pamantasan ng Lungsod ng Maynila. So, yun po. So, ano yung mga awards na kanya pong natanggap? So, Doctor of Laws, Honoris Causa, sana tama yung pagkakapronounce ko, from the Pamantasan ng Lungsod ng Maynila in 2019. Then, ayan, okay. So, 10 outstanding policemen of the Philippines, Philippine JCs Incorporated, that was in 1998. Special Medal of Honor, Kapisanan ng mga Broadcaster ng Pilipinas. Police Director of the Year, Regional Command 7, Cebu City in 1992. Adopted son of Cebu. Oops. Meron nga akong na-unmute. Teka lang po Hanapin lang natin kung ano yung naka-unmute para ma-mute natin. Constabulary, and then a major service of the Armed. Sana yun? Forces of the Philippines responsible for maintaining. Naririnig ko tuloy yung boses ko. Ganun pala yung register ng aking boses. Teka lang po nilolocate lang natin kung saan yung naka-unmute na yun. Nasaan kaya yun? pasensya na po. Ganito po talaga pagka-live. May mga technical difficulties na na-encounter. So, ilocate lang natin
peace and order and
kung nasan
enforcement
yun.
of laws in the country.
Yan. Sa sobrang lakas ng aking signal, nagba-buffer. Hindi naman yun. Saan kaya? Ako, nagang na.
During the Marcos years, so that is the late Ferdinand.
Ang buti na lang po may background music para kahit pa paano malibang-libang. Nako.
Marcos, Lacson developed a reputation as a root.
Gusto na yun.
Less crime buster. Unite.
Pambihira. May sumisingit. Anyway, so nasa na tayo? So yan, yung mga awards niya nga. Yan, so Adopted Son of Cebu, Cebu City Council Resolution in 1991. Philippine Constabulary Officer of the Year, Regional Command 7, Cebu City, 1989 to 1990 and 1990 to 1991. Then PMA Alumni Cavalier Award, Special Operations.
A postgraduate degree of
Yun, nakita ko na siya.
Master in Government Management.
Yun. Yan. Pasensya na po. So going back, so PMA Alumni Cavalier Award or Special Operations, PMA Alumni Association in 1983, then PC Metrocom Officer of the Year, Philippine Constabulary in 1982. Yan. So, yun po yung mga nakita nating awards na nasa Coelho ni Ping Lacson. Then medals, 17 military merit medals, 3 medalya ng kadakilaan, 3 medalya ng kagalingan, 2 outstanding achievement medals, 5 military commendation medals, 5 bronze cross medals, 2 medalya ng papuri, Luzon Campaign Medal, Visayas Campaign Medal, and Combat Efficiency Medal. So, ayan, yun po yung mga medals. Though hindi na ako nag-research kung ano yung mga yun, mga description ng mga yun. So, career as a public servant. So, Metrocom Intelligence and Security Group in 1971 to 1986. PCINP Anti-Carnapping Task Force 1986 to 1988. Provincial Commander Isabela PC or Philippine Constabulary 1988 to 1989. Commander in Cebu Metro Discom 1989 to 1992. Provincial Director Laguna PC February to July 1992. Chief Task Force Sabagat PACC 1992 to 1995. Project Officer Special Project Alpha 1996 to April 1997, Chief Presidential Anti-Organized Crime Task Force, June 26, 1998 to January 21, 2001, Chief Philippine National Police, November 16, 1999 to January 20, 2001, Presidential Assistant on Rehabilitation and Recovery, 2013 to 2015, then Senator 2001 to 2013, and 2016 to present. So yeah, Lacson received from the Philippine Military Academy the prestigious Lifetime Achievement Award on February 19, 2022. So bagong-bago lang po yan. This year lang. In recognition of his more than 50 years of dedicated, exemplary, and unblemished service to the country characterized by his faithful adherence to the virtues of courage, loyalty, and integrity. So yan. So syempre yung public service po niya ay divided into two, yung police career niya saka yung political career. So yung police career or military training, scholarship courses, yan, may nakita rin tayo online. So Bachelor Science degree in Philippine Military Academy 1967 to 1971, Intel Officers Basic Course, SITS, Fort Bonifacio 1973, Military Intel Collection Course, SITS, Fort Bonifacio 1974, Counter-Urban Guerrilla Warfare Course, Fort Magsaysay 1972, Incident Management Course, PSG Malacanang, Air Mobile Operations Course Command and General Staff Course Camp Crame, Quezon City, and Command General Staff College, Fort Bonifacio. Yeah, political career. So we all know, we are all familiar with this. First two Senate terms, so 2001 to 2013. So on 2001 senatorial elections, pang 10th place po siya. Then in 2004, presidential bid, finished third with 10.88% of the vote. So yan. So he attempted to run for presidential race. If I'm remembering it right, ito yung time ni Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo. So actually during my research, napansin ko na parang may issue between GMA and Ping Lacson. Kasi nung time ni GMA, nung naupo na si GMA, ay naglabasan yung samut-saring kaso against Ping Lacson na madadaanan po natin siya mamaya. So, kaya kung anti-GMA kayo, so pwedeng i-consider nyo si Lacson as your vote for president. So next, 2007 senatorial elections, ranking third naman siya ng panahon na yun. So yan. At syempre, hindi ko ma-recall kung 2007, 2013. So yes, tumakbo siya in 2016 at syempre nanalo po siya sa election as senator. So ano pa yung mga achievements niya as a public servant? So Presidential Anti-Crime Commission Chief of Task Force Habagat. So that is in 1992 to 1995. So Habagat was the most effective force in the campaign against kidnapping, with its dismantling of the feared Red Scorpion Gang led by Alfredo De Leon. So yeah. Kaya nga ano yung term during Ferdinand Marcos? Ruthless crime buster. So talaga napangatawanan po yan ni Ping Lacson. So kung may issue kayo sa krimen sa Pilipinas, you may consider Lacson as your president. At alam ko na ulat sa pulya ng concern ng Pilipinas. Well, even other third world countries or poor countries like us, alam ko na malaking problema ang krimen. Kaya piliin natin yung presidente na somehow may say in crime busting. Ika nga. So yan. Next is Presidential Anti-Organized Crime Task Force Chief or PAOCTF 1998 to 2001. So under the Estrada administration, Lacson headed the Anti-Organized Crime Task Force, bringing to zero the number of kidnap for ransom cases. It also scored high against drug trafficking, smuggling activities, carnapping, illegal possession of firearms, and other nefarious activities. Then, syempre, naging PNP chief po siya in 1991 to 2001. So he founded the PNP Foundation in 2000. At syempre, yung rule niya or policy niya about anti-kidnapping and no-take policy. So may dalawa akong nakita. Robina's family, Gokongwei Pe, offered Lacson and his team a reward, but Lacson declined it as part of his no-take policy. Lacson explained that he does not want his men to have the mentality of not helping gusto-gusto or yung mga mahihirap, complainants who may not afford to give them a reward. Kaya hindi po niya tinanggap ang reward na yun. And during his stint in Cebu, Lacson rescued the scion of a Cebu-based retail magnate. The victim's family intended to give the money they prepared as ransom to Lacson and his operatives as a reward, but Lacson declined it. Lacson was said to have told the victim's family that a mere thank you was more than enough for him. And I believe Lacson is very consistent on his stand about this no-take policy. Okay, next. Ano pa, as PNP chief, may mga reforms po siya laban sa mga scalawags in uniform or yung mga cotton caps, 1999 to 2001. So as chief PNP, he rationalized the distribution of financial and logistical resources by downloading 85% to the police frontline units, retaining only 15% in the police headquarters to improve the overall management while removing excess privileges of top police officials. He imposed a strict physical fitness test on all PNP members, invoking a 34-inch maximum waistline for police officers. So yan, I don't know kung ano yung waistline ko, parang 36 ata nung mataba pa ako, pero I believe bumaba na ako ulit sa 34 or 33. So yan, may singit ko lang yung part na yun. So Lacson refused to accept bribe money from illegal gambling operators and contractors and suppliers transacting business with the PNP, declining offers of monetary rewards from kidnapped for ransom victims after rescuing them from their captors. So again, he's very consistent as to that. Lacson stopped the practice of cotton caps o yung bribe culture who extort money from public utility drivers, vegetable and rice dealers, and vendors. I think talagang uso-uso ito sa Pilipinas, yung mga nangungutong sa ating mga public vendors. Uso-uso po yan. So under Lacson's leadership, the PNP achieved a 58% public approval rating, while Lacson got a 78% approval rating for himself. Earned the PNP the highest public approval ratings in its history. So yan, sa panahon ni Ping Lacson, na nakakuha ng mataas na public approval ang PNP. So inspired by his success story, particularly in law enforcement, his life story was made into a movie entitled Ping Lacson, Super Cop in 2000. He was portrayed by the action star, the late Rudy Fernandez. Then, Aquino Cabinet in 2013 to 2015. So in the aftermath of Super Typhoon Yolanda that caused widespread destruction, substantial damage, and death in several areas in the country, particularly in the Visayas, President Aquino appointed Lacson as Presidential Assistant for Rehabilitation and Recovery, or PAR, PARR, coordinating efforts to help victims. Despite the limitations and difficulties encountered in terms of support from the national government, Lacson and his staff managed to put together the Yolanda Comprehensive Rehabilitation and Recovery Plan, or CRRP, with a 167 billion pesos proposed funding, which provides for an overall strategic vision and integrated short-term, medium-term, and long-term programs in the Yolanda affected areas, which detailed institutional arrangements, including public-private partnerships and cluster structures for infrastructure, social services, resettlement, livelihood, and support. The CRRP also detailed rehabilitation and recovery plans for local governments, as well as guidelines for engaging with the non-government sector. Lacson's effort in the Yolanda rehabilitation led to the institutionalization of certain mechanisms on rehabilitation of calamity affected communities. In December 2014, Lacson tendered his irrevocable resignation as PARR, which took effect in February 2015. He recommended the transition of his office's accomplishments and best practices to a permanent government agency. Lacson viewed the scheduled sunset review of Republic Act 10121, otherwise known as Philippine Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Act of 2010, as an opportune time to propose possible remedial measures that will help improve the effectiveness of the law, especially on the aspect of disaster rehabilitation and recovery. Lacson pointed out that while his mandate as PARR was to develop a rehabilitation plan, he had no authority to implement or manage funds. So yeah. So alam naman natin na na nagkaroon ng issues sa pondo sa Yolanda at pinopoint lang ni Lacson na ang binigay lang sa kanya na directive is to prepare the plan at ginawa naman niya yon at ng kanyang team at ipinasa niya naman yon, turn over niya rin properly at wala siyang authority to implement or manage funds. So malinaw yon na sinabi ni Ping Lacson. Kaya labas siya sa issue ng pondo ng Yolanda. So ano pa yung mga advocacies na meron si Ping Lacson? So anti-pork advocacy. Lacson is an untiring, tenacious watchdog of the national budget, making sure dubious congressional insertions, or aka pork barrel, and useless appropriations are checked and deleted during plenary debate. So I believe isa ito sa mga pinaglaban talaga at patuloy na pinaglalaban ni Ping Lacson, yung pork barrel. As senator, Lacson has been the only senator, aside from the late Joker Arroyo, who has never used his 200 million pesos a year Priority Development Assistance Fund, or PDAF, pork barrel allocations. Instead, he returned all of them to the National Treasury, saving government 2.4 billion pesos in 12 years in the Senate. He has instead called out and pushed for the removal of the dubious congressional insertions and appropriations, earning him a reputation as an untiring, tenacious watchdog of the national budget, which is the lifeblood of the nation. So yan. So crime buster, watchdog pa siya. So yan. Yan po yung mga title ni Ping Lacson. On March 11, 2003, Lacson delivered a speech entitled Living Without Pork, exposing the evils and temptations presented by the pork barrel system, and called for its total abolition. The Supreme Court ruled that the PDAF was unconstitutional, providing legal backing for Lacson's position. But even with this ruling, our legislators continue to make insertions in the national budget to satisfy their craving for pork. So ganyan po ka-corrupt yung ating mga opisyales. In late 2016, Lacson discovered and moved to take out some 8.3 billion pesos in pork-like insertions made by the House of Representatives. Lacson noted that House members were allowed to identify 80 million pesos worth of projects before the submission of the 2017 National Expenditure Program to Congress for deliberations. The pork barrel system already declared unconstitutional by the Supreme Court. This prompted the Senate to realign 8.3 billion pesos in the proposed 2017 national budget to cover tuition of students in state colleges and universities. So, malaki pa talaga yung pera ng Pilipinas na nagagamit lang ng mali, nabubulsa lang ng mga tao. ng mga politiko. In a sequel of his 2003 speech, he detailed in a 2019 privilege speech, Living Without Pork 2, a reinvention of pork barrel allocations in the pork-ridden, cholesterol-rich 2019 budget, particularly those lodged in the budget of DPWH, or the Department of Public Works and Highways. For the 2019 budget, Lacson raised questions about the post-ratification tweaks made by the House leadership to the spending bill, saying that this would violate the 1987 Constitution's Article 6, Section 26, Paragraph 2. Upon the last reading of a bill, no amendment thereto shall be allowed. He also noted 72.3 billion pesos was slashed from the DPWH MFO 1 and 2, which covers the Duterte administration's Build program. The projects under the MFO had already been planned and vetted. Yeah. So, kumbaga, alam ni Ping Lacson ang batas. Alam niya ang Constitution. Lacson has remained vigilant in scrutinizing budget insertions, speaking out when he felt these insertions had all the earmarks of pork. The approval of the 2019 budget was delayed for several months because he spotted some 95 billion pesos in pork funds that President Duterte deleted or vetoed when he finally signed the national budget, which is Republic Act 11260 or the General Appropriations Act of 2019. So, kumbaga, yung pork ay sinabi ng unconstitutional, nabubulol ako palagi doon. Yung pork ay tinawag ng unconstitutional by the Supreme Court at palaging binabantayan ni Lacson, pero yung mga legislators natin ay patuloy pa rin itinatago at naglalagay ng pork sa kanilang budget. So, hindi na natuto yung ating mga politicians. Kaya, pag nawala na si Lacson sa posisyon, asahan natin na yung pork ay hindi na mapapansin or mababantayan sa ating budget, sa ating national budget. Kaya please, pag-isipang mabuti yung ating mga iboboto. Meanwhile, in the proposed 2020 budget, Lacson cited information from some House members regarding a plan to give each district 700 million pesos and each of 22 deputy speakers 1.5 billion pesos. The plan was eventually scrapped. Lacson's revelations prompted some House members to demand an apology from Lacson, but Lacson said there's nothing to apologize for, as he is guarding the budget. House members demanded that he name these sources, but Lacson refused, saying that he gets more information because he protects his sources. Lacson said that such complaints will not distract him from scrutinizing the 2020 budget bill. So Lacson's advocacy against the pork barrel system and the corruption associated with him was cited by the Pamantasan ng Lungsod ng Maynila when it conferred on him the degree of Doctor of Laws honoris causa on March 27, 2019. So yun pala yun. So nabigyan siya ng honoris causa ng PLM because of his battle against pork barrel system and the corruption, especially in the government sector. So ano pa yung mga advocacies ni Ping Lacson? So capital punishment or yung death penalty na tinatawag. So Lacson had been pushing for the restoration of the death penalty, filing a bill seeking to reimpose the death penalty on certain heinous crimes in 2019. After he entered the presidential race in the upcoming 2022 presidential election, however, he reversed his decision on the issue after watching the film The Life of David Gale. As a presidential aspirant, Lacson vowed to retract the death penalty bill he filed before the Senate, if it's still there, arguing that it is more important to save the life of someone innocent and convicted than to execute someone who is really convicted and proven to have committed a crime. So, kaya somehow sa stand na to, advocacy na to ni Ping Lacson ay pro-life siya. Pro-life siya kasi sa ating mga Katoliko or sa community na meron po kami, the Couples for Christ, we are pro-life. So we are anti-death penalty. Kaya isa po ito sa gusto ko na advocacy na meron si Ping Lacson. Anti-wetting campaign. So in 1992, he bared an attempt by local wetting operators in Laguna to bribe him, initially to the tune of 1.2 million pesos a month, and he rejected the offer. Lacson maintained an all-out effort against wetting, even if in the process he crossed paths with eventual President Joseph Estrada. And if I'm not mistaken, wetting din ata yung naging issue with Estrada, kaya siya na-impeach or kaya siya willingly bumaba sa posisyon. So yan. So kahit presidente yung kalaban ni Ping Lacson, kapag alam niya na tama siya, inilalaban niya. And again, that is being consistent with his motto, ang tama ilaban, tama ba? Wait. Hanapin natin yun. Yun. Ang tama ipaglaban, ang mali labanan. What is right must be kept right. What is wrong must be set right. So yeah. So he is being consistent with that motto. Next ay research and development advocacy. Lacson pushed for bigger state investments in research and development, which he noted accounts for only 0.4% of the national budget from 2016 to 2020. To remedy this, he proposed increases in the R&D budget of the Department of Science and Technology, including a 250 million increase for the Office of the Secretary, 50 million increase for the Science for Change program, niche center in the regions for research and development, or NICER, 100 million pesos for the Space Technology and Applications Mastery, Innovation and Investment, or Stamina for Space, and 100 million pesos for the Collaborative Research and Development to Leverage Philippine Economy, or CRADLE program. So yan. So pro research and development po si Ping Lacson, na kumbaga parang patunay na ayaw niyang mahuli ang Pilipinas sa technological advancement and all. So he reiterated the importance of research and development in March 2020 and government preparations to deal with the COVID-19 threat. Lacson vowed a historic increase of budget infusion for research and development efforts should he be elected president. So yan. So yung emphasis on research and development. So may segue ko lang. I believe na kaya nawala ang Nokia kasi ang Nokia po for years ay sobrang undefeated in terms of mobile phones, pero because maybe of poor R&D section, hindi nila na-improve yung technology na meron sila. Kaya sobrang napaka-importante po ng research and development, especially sa isang bansa, para makasabay sa paglipas ng panahon. At syempre, yung issue laban sa China at sa West Philippine Sea. So ano yung stand ni Ping Lacson? So when China started massive reclamation projects on Kagitingan Reef in the Spratlys, Lacson was one of the first to call for the convening of the National Security Council, or the NSC. He said that this would provide an opportunity for President Benigno Aquino III to discuss possible courses of action for dealing with the national security crisis that was building up in the West Philippine Sea. Unfortunately, Aquino was reluctant to convene the NSC. So yan, so napabayaan ng tuluyan ang ating West Philippine Sea. West Philippine Sea, so Lacson was one of the senators who supported Defense Secretaries Delfin Lorenzana in demanding that Chinese military leave Julian Felipe Reef, or Whitsun Reef, in the West Philippine Sea. Filipinos should stand foursquare behind DND Secretary Delfin Lorenzana for making known his strong position in defending our country's sovereign rights over the Whitsun Reef, or Julian Felipe Reef, and before that, the Mischief Reef occupied by the Chinese during the period 1994 to 1995, and the Scarborough Shoal, which China cordoned off in 2012. So Lacson said on April 5, 2021. So yan, so yun po yung stand ni Lacson laban sa China at sa West Philippine Sea. Ayan. So, syempre bilang senator, he is also a lawmaker. So ano yung mga nagawa niya as a lawmaker? So, alam ko hindi naman attorney si Lacson. Hindi siya nag-take ng board and all. Hindi siya nag-take ng law and all. So, merong mga pumasa ng law pero in terms of lawmaking ay wala namang nagawa masyado. Anyway, so lawmakers, so Lacson filed bills that aimed to improve public service, enhance reproductive health, promote investments, bolster the country's defense capabilities. So ano yun? The Reproductive Health Bill, signed into law as Republic Act 10354, the Responsible Parenthood and Reproductive Health Act, nabubulol pa rin ako, in December 2012. The measure seeks to promote responsible parenthood and to protect the health of the mother and child by giving them access to reproductive health services. So ano pa yung mga batas na ginawa niya? The Sin Tax Reform Act, which imposes higher taxes on tobacco and alcohol products the public to deter the public from buying such products. Those who buy such products will have to pay higher taxes, whose proceeds will go to the government's Universal Health Program. For the Sin Tax Reform Act, Lacson had filed Senate Bill number 2763, which sought to restructure the excise tax on alcohol products, and Senate Bill 2764, which sought to restructure the excise tax on tobacco products, signed into law as Republic Act 10351. So makita mo rin yung advocacy ni Ping Lacson according to uh, yung advocacy ni Ping Lacson about health and all. So yan, para mapigilan, mabawasan somehow yung tobacco or yung mga cigarettes and alcoholic beverages sa Pilipinas. Then, Anti-Money Laundering Act of 2001 or Republic Act 10167, Amendment to the Armed Forces of the Philippines Modernization Act or Republic Act 10349, which aims to provide more funds to the military. An act providing for comprehensive law on firearms, light weapons, and ammunition, so that is Republic Act 10591. Law converting Imus Cavite from a municipality into a city, Republic Act 10161. So sa mga nagsasabi na wala namang nagawa si Lacson sa Cavite, so meron naman po. So kasama na dyan yung pagiging city ng Imus Cavite. So reapportioned the province of Cotabato into 3 legislative districts. So Republic Act 10177. So somehow in terms of managing the Philippines, the provinces of the Philippines ay may say naman po dyan si Ping Lacson. Then, ano pa? Mga anti-crime laws. So, amendment to the Anti-Money Laundering Act to include casinos as covered persons. It was signed into law as Republic Act 10927. Lacson also primarily authored Republic Act 9194 or the Anti-Money Laundering Act. Republic Act 10167, an act to further strengthen the anti-money laundering law. So please bear with me, puro mga batas, masyadong technical na yung mga binabasa ko. Kahit ako, hindi ko po alam ang mga ito. Restoration of subpoena powers to the PNP-CIDG. So the bill was signed into law as Republic Act 10973. A retirement and benefit system for the Office of the Ombudsman, which is part of what is now RA 11059. Transferring the training of police recruits from the Philippine Public Safety College to the PNP, signed into law as RA 11279. So Lacson also authored bills to curb criminality and corruption and to streamline the bureaucracy, including Senate Bill 23, the proposed budget reform for Village Empowerment Act of 2016. The bill seeks to give local government units an active role in nation building by providing them with funding for development projects. So yun, so binababa na yung pondo doon sa mga local government. Senate Bill 42, penalizing a wide range of crimes ranging from drug-related offenses to treason, terrorism, and human trafficking. So yeah, Senate Bill 48, which seeks to amend RA 4200 to update the list of crimes where wiretapping may be deemed lawful under certain circumstances. The measure may give enforcers, sorry, the measure may give excuse me, law enforcers more teeth against crimes like drugs, money laundering, and coups. Senate Bill 258, which offers substantial rewards and better protection to witnesses in exchange for coming out and testifying against government officials or employees involved in corruption. Kaya talagang yan po ang isa sa mga gustong labanan ni Ping Lacson, yung corruption. Senate Bill 1025, which strips drug pushers, manufacturers, cultivators, importers, and financiers of their rights under the Bank Secrecy Act so they can no longer hide their ill-gotten money in banks. Senate Bill 1210, the proposed expanded Anti-Wiretapping Act of 2016. Then Senate Bill 1310, which gives the Philippine National Police Internal Affairs Service more teeth to curb abuses and further enhance discipline in the police agency. Ano pa? So marami po kasi talagang batas na nagawa si Ping Lacson. National ID Law or Republic Act number 11055. Isa po ito sa mga batas na nagustuhan ko. Kasi dito po sa bansang ito ng Saudi Arabia, we have just one ID, what we call ikama, na yan po yung ginagamit sa lahat ng transactions namin dito sa bansang ito. Na hopefully ma-apply din sa Pilipinas dahil napakarami nating ID na ginagamit sa Pilipinas. So at least kapag isang ID lang, madali yung mga transactions at hopefully mabawasan din yung mga gumagawa ng kabalbalan kasi nga isang ID na lang yung ginagamit sa isang tao. So Lacson sponsored the bill seeking to establish a national ID system in the Philippines, which provides for easier transactions with the government and private entities, and which helps deter criminality and terrorism by facilitating the processes of apprehension and prosecution. The system seeks to address the problems of constant delays and inconveniences in availing of basic public services and social security benefits due to inefficient and unreliable means of identifying the beneficiaries. Lacson had been a perennial author of the measure since his first term as senator in 2001. In his sponsorship speech, Lacson said, "The national ID system seeks to harmonize, integrate, and interconnect the countless and redundant government-issued ID cards." At totoo naman ito. The proposed measure, Senate Bill 1738, was approved in the Senate with a vote of 17-2. Sino kaya itong dalawa na to? On March 19, 2018. On August 6, 2018, President Rodrigo Duterte signed the national ID measure into law as RA 11055. Lacson expressed thanks to Duterte as it was under his term that the national ID system saw the light of day. So yan, matagal lang isinusulong, biruin nyo, since 2001. Ngayon lang, 2018 lang, doon lang siya na isabatas. And I believe ongoing na po yung execution ng batas na ito. Alam ko may mga pinaparegister na para makakuha ng national ID. And hopefully, ay hindi po mabaliwala yung purpose behind the law. Then, ano pa? RA 11200 or the PNP Rank Classification Law. On February 8, 2019, President Duterte signed into law RA 11200, which provides for a rank classification in the PNP. Lacson said the new law, where he is the principal author and sponsor, eliminates confusion on how PNP officers must be addressed, but more importantly, allows for better coordination between the PNP and other law enforcement units in countering terrorism and other threats to national security. He added, "We cannot afford any delay in coordination in counterterrorism operations and operations against other threats to national security." So, kaya talagang maaasahan in terms of discipline, national peace and order, kasi yun po talaga yung linya ni Ping Lacson. So, Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020 or RA 11479. So, Lacson is sponsored in the Senate what is now the Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020 or RA 11479, which gives Philippine authorities much needed legal tools to strengthen their efforts against the menace of terrorism. In his sponsorship speech for the measure in October 2019, Lacson said the country needs a legal framework for anti-terrorism that is clear, concise, balanced, and rational. He added that the 2007 Human Security Act, which the 2020 anti-terror law replaced, had become a dead letter law as some of its provisions, including a 500,000 daily penalty for the wrongful detention of a suspected terrorist, discourage law enforcers from using it to charge suspected terrorists with only one conviction and just one proscribed terrorist organization such as the Abu Sayyaf group in more than 10 years it was in effect. So kumbaga, yung lumang batas na Human Security Act ay hindi siya ganun ka-effective kasi isa lang ang naging suspected terrorist and isang grupo lang din ang natag as terrorist. So yan. Also, Lacson pointed out that Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020 fills the gaps in the 2007 law by making punishable inchoate offenses. Section 6 penalizes planning, training, preparing, and facilitating the commission of terrorism, as well as providing the mechanism allowing the freezing of assets used to finance terrorism. But he stressed the law is not meant to stifle dissent as claimed by some groups. As Section 4 makes clear, it does not cover advocacy, protest, dissent, stoppage of work, industrial or mass action, and other actions covered in the Bill of Rights in the 1987 Constitution, and other similar exercises of civil and political rights that are not intended to cause death or serious physical harm to a person, to endanger a person's life, or to create a serious risk to public safety. Lacson said he is ready to close monitor and call out potential abuses in the implementation of the law, adding he will not allow anyone to pervert the legislative intent of the measure that he had painstakingly sponsored on the Senate floor. He noted the bill had gone through the gauntlet in the legislative branch with its provisions earning the nod of constitutionalists and legal heavyweights in both houses of the Congress. Kasi nga, may mga issues na lumabas nung naisabatas yung Anti-Terrorism Act dahil baka daw yung mga simpleng pag-gather ng mga tao, especially nga uso-uso sa Pilipinas yung nagra-rally and all. So malinaw na sinabi ni Lacson na hindi iyon nasasakupan ng batas na ito. Kasi minsan, especially yung media natin na alam nyo yun, yung selected lang, yung pinipili nila at kumbaga misleading yung mga title nila sa mga pinopost nila or nasa newspaper na kung ikaw yung tao na hindi nagbabasa at karamihan sa atin ay hindi talaga nagbabasa na nagre-react agad dun pa lang sa title na nabasa nila. So, yan yung sad reality po natin. Kaya sobrang daming fake news na naglalabasan especially nitong election period. Kaya yun yung itinatama ni Ping Lacson na sobrang pinag-aralang mabuti ang batas na ito, the Anti-Terrorism Act. At they made sure na constitutional po ang batas na ito. So in addressing claims the law could allow abuse, Lacson said there are safeguards such as a 10-year jail terms and perpetual disqualification from public office for law enforcers who fail to comply with the requirement to report the arrest of a suspected terrorist to the nearest court and to the Commission on Human Rights. As such, he pointed out the law is swift, effective, and constitutional. So yeah. So ano pang mga batas? Free irrigation for farmers, co-authored RA 10969 or the Free Irrigation Service Act, signed by President Duterte on February 2, 2018, which waives irrigation fees for farmers who own 8 hectares of land or less. Ano pa? RA 9485 or the Anti-Red Tape Act of 2007 brings down the number of steps and days involved in government transaction and in turn paves the way for efficient and expeditious public service. Other laws. So Lacson also primarily authored RA 9163 or the National Service Training Program or NSTP Act of 2001, RA 9166 or an act increasing the base pay of the members of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, RA 9208 or the Anti-Trafficking in Persons Act of 2003, RA 9416 or Anti-Cheating Act of 2007, RA 9484 or the Philippine Dental Act of 2007. So even sa dental industry, meron din siyang naisabatas. He was also one of the co-authors of the following laws: RA 9165 or otherwise known as the Dangerous Drugs Act of 2002, RA 9189 or the Absentee Voting Act. So kaya tayo mga OFWs, we have now the opportunity to vote, and it is because of Ping Lacson and other authors of this law, RA 9189. Ayan, so shout out daw from Iloilo City. My father is also rooting for Lacson to win. Ayan, so at least may kasama pala ako kasi po ako po ay Lacson. Most sensible and experienced presidentiable. So ayan, regards from Baby DJ. So ayan, shout out to Tita Becca, Tito Mark, kay sa family ni Tita Becca at sa kanyang anak si Baby DJ. So ayan, so shout out to all of you there in Iloilo City kasi nakabakasyon po si Tita Becca. So, where am I? Yan. So, yun. So, Absentee Voting Act. So, RA 9189. So, si Ping Lacson po ang co-author po niyan. Isa sa co-author. And RA 9287, otherwise known as the Anti-Wetting and Illegal Numbers Game. So, patuloy pa rin. Again, consistency is the best policy. Yan po si Ping Lacson. So, Anti-Wetting and Illegal Numbers Game. So, RA 9287. RA 9406 or an act reorganizing the Public Attorney's Office. And RA 11476, the GMRC and Values Education Act. So, yeah. So, kumbaga, tinetreasure din, pinapahalagahan din ni Ping Lacson ang values education, especially ng ating mga kabataan, na very important na naging kumbaga isa ito sa na problema natin ngayon with the millennials, and again may batas tayo for that. Co-authored and sponsored RA 11053 or the Anti-Hazing Law of 2018, signed by President Duterte on June 29, 2018, which prohibits hazing and imposes harsher or heavier penalties on organizers and participants in hazing that would prevent hazing-related death. So, I believe matagal ng concern ito, ang hazing sa Pilipinas, sa mga schools sa Pilipinas. Kaya, ayan, may batas na rin po tayo about that. And thanks to Ping Lacson and all the other authors of this law. Under the new law, yung anti-hazing law, the definition of hazing was expanded to include physical or psychological suffering, harm or injury inflicted on a recruit, member, neophyte, or applicant as a prerequisite for admission or for continued membership in an organization. Banned under the law are all forms of hazing, not only in fraternities, sororities, or organizations in schools, but also those in communities and even businesses and uniformed service learning institution. So hindi na lang pang school yung hazing. So even in other organizations na meron. So nasasakupan po yan ng batas na ito. The law also requires schools to be more active and proactive in regulating school-based initiation rights, with the schools required to exercise reasonable supervision and take proactive steps to protect students from danger of sorry, from danger of participating in activities that will involve hazing. Penalties include imprisonment up to 40 years, 40, so ganun katagal, 40 years, and fines up to 3 million pesos. So yan. Kaya may concern din si Ping Lacson sa ating mga estudyante, especially yung na-involve na sa hazing and all. Then, ano pa? Third Senate term, that is from 2016 to 2022, para kay Ping Lacson. So, various bills addressing local and national concerns, even that of the barangays. So, Senate Bill 24, which encourages people's participation in deliberations on the national budget to prevent pork. Yan, so talagang anti-pork po talaga si Ping Lacson. Senate Bill 25, which requires registration of prepaid subscriber identification module or yung SIM cards to prevent scams and crimes involving identity theft. So, kumbaga makikita mo kung gaano kaseryoso si Ping Lacson sa paglaban sa krimen. So we have now the national ID law at ngayon pati yung SIM card, which is actually maganda kasi nga nagagamit din po ng sama-sama yung mga SIM card natin, especially sa Pilipinas na napakadaling kumuha ng SIM card. And like here sa bansang ito, kailangan mo yung tinatawag na ikama or yung national ID para maka-avail ka ng SIM card. Kaya hopefully talaga ma-execute properly and legally yung National ID System Act para at least, alam mo yon, isang ID na lang at hopefully mabawasan yung krimen sa pamagitan ng batas na yun. Then Senate Bill 26, which excludes government employees, including the President, from protection of the Philippine Bank Secrecy Act. So yan, ito matagal na rin issue ito, yung Bank Secrecy Act na dapat, especially yung mga nasa gobyerno na may batas para hindi sila ma-exempt na ipakita yung laman ng kanilang bangko and all. So yan, yung kanilang bank account and all. So yan. Senate Bill 27, which reimposes the death penalty on heinous crimes. Then Senate Bill 28, which imposes heavier penalties on those giving false testimonies. Kaya yung mga fake news na yan, walang effect yan kay Ping Lacson kasi may bill para dyan. Kaya humanda kayo pag naisabatas itong bill na ito. Mga false testimonies. Then Senate Bill 29, which assures the parents who enter their twilight years will get support from their children. So yan, para sa ating mga senior citizens. So you are protected or you will be protected by this bill pag naisabatas po ito. Then Senate Bill 30, the proposed Anti-Political Dynasty Act. So isa ito sa major concern din natin sa politika sa Pilipinas na yung buong pamilya yung nauupo sa posisyon. So meron ng bill para dyan, the Anti-Political Dynasty Act. So kung yung iba salita lang ng salita kung ano yung gagawin nila laban sa political dynasty, anti-political dynasty, si Ping Lacson ay meron ng bill na ginawa para dyan na hopefully ay maisabatas para mabawasan or maiwasan na yung dynasty sa ating mga local governments. Senate Bill 246 or the Real Property Valuation and Assessment Reform Act. Senate Bill 247, the Anti-Contraband in Prison Act of 2019. So alam naman natin ito na until now, matindi yung kalakaran ng kontrabando, mga illegal na kontrabando sa ating mga kulungan. Kaya kahit sa mga kulungan, meron ng mga Harit Reyna dyan na ginawang kingdom na paghahari na yung mga kulungan. Sadly, that is the reality. Senate Bill 248, Whistleblower Act of 2019. Ito para maproteksyonan yung mga nagsusumbong sa mga corruption and all, mga ganap ng krimen. So hopefully maisabatas din po ito. Senate Bill 249 or the National Defense Act of 2019. So I believe para maprotektahan especially yung territory ng Pilipinas. Senate Bill 250 or the Land Administration Reform Act of 2019. Senate Bill 251, the Local Government Units Income Classification Act of 2019. Senate Bill 252 or the Additional Barangay Captains Insurance Act of 2019. So again, even yung mga barangay ay nasa isip ni Ping Lacson. Senate Bill 253, upgrading the benefits and incentives of the barangay tanod. So tingnan nyo, kahit mga barangay tanod, kinoconsider ni Ping Lacson. Senate Bill 254, an act establishing the Philippine uh, the Philippine Armed Forces Academy and appropriating funds. Therefore, so yan. Senate Bill 255, exemptions in requirements for conversion of a municipality into a component city. Senate Bill 255 and 266, which provide added benefits to barangay tanods and captains. Senate Bill 260, which provides for special financial assistance for families or beneficiaries of police and military personnel, jail officers, and firefighters killed or incapacitated in the line of duty. Senate Bill 971, which provides guidelines on the selection of provincial commanders and city and town chiefs of police. Senate Bill 1310, which gives PNP's Internal Affairs Service more teeth to curb abuses and further enhance discipline in the police agency. He went after abusive law enforcers, including some rogue cops who took advantage of the government's anti-drug war and stressed his call for internal cleansing in the PNP. Senate Bill 1470, which updates the charter of the Philippine Charity Sweepstakes Office or PCSO to help it keep up with the new variations of lotteries and make it more accountable. Senate Bill 1471, which addresses PAGCOR's conflicting roles of regulating and operating gambling casinos by having the agency focus on regulating the industry and giving up its role as operator of such establishments. So yan. So ganun kalawak yung mga naiisip na batas ni Ping Lacson and the other authors ng ating legislative branch of government. So ano pa? Designated Survivor Bill to ensure the order of presidential succession. So anong ibig sabihin nito? On August 28, 2019, Lacson filed Senate Bill 982, an act prescribing the order of presidential succession. The bill was also known as the Designated Survivor Bill due to its similarity to the US and Korean shows that featured a designated official being kept in a safe, remote area to act as president should the president and his or her successors be killed or incapacitated in a terrorist attack or major calamity. Lacson confirmed he drew inspiration from the Netflix show. So yan. Kaya somehow updated din si Ping Lacson with Netflix kasi yung stand niya about death penalty inspired yun ng isang Netflix show. So ngayon, isang bill ulit na isinulat niya, yung Designated Survivor Bill na inspired din ng Netflix show. At actually, very futuristic din itong bill na ito kasi it has something to do with the protection of the president. Na kapag may mangyari sa kanila, merong papalit na tatayong presidente. So ganun ka-futuristic yung batas na ito. If ever may sa batas po siya. Then ano pa? Proposed Philippine Building Act. In the wake of recent quakes that hit Mindanao, Lacson filed Senate Bill 1239, updating the 1977 National Building Code. Experience tells us that there is an urgent need to strengthen the overall policy on how buildings and structures are built in the country. Not to mention the country's geographical location along the boundary of major tectonic plates and at the center of the typhoon belt, coupled by its socially and economically vulnerable population, it becomes even more imperative to review our 4-decade-old National Building Code. So that is as per Lacson. He was one of the principal authors of Joint Resolution 1, which sought to authorize the increase in the base pay of military and other uniformed personnel or MUP in the government. Among those who benefit from the increase of the base pay are the retired MUP of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, General Headquarters, Philippine National Police, Bureau of Fire Protection, and Bureau of Jail Management and Penology. So yan. So, kumbaga, para ma-encourage yung mga tao to enter into police as a profession or military or what have you. Kaya maganda po ang batas na ito. Lacson also filed resolutions that led to many officials being held accountable. So alleged anomalous acquisition by the PNP of light operational helicopters in 2009 or Resolution 518. The resolution triggered an investigation that led to the filing of criminal charges against the officials and personalities linked to the questionable purchase. Some of them were dismissed from the service. So yan, so yung mga corruption sa PNP. So pinanawagan niya yan at yun nga po, maganda yung naging resulta kasi kumilos ang gobyerno laban sa mga iyon. Corruption by the previous board of the Philippines Charity Sweepstakes Office, PCSO, in 2011, or Resolution number 519. Many of the officials linked to the irregularity, including former President Gloria Arroyo, have been charged before the graft court. So yan. So kaya makikita mo na talagang magkalaban si Ping Lacson at si Gloria Arroyo. So yan, yung issue ng PCSO, so in-address niya rin po yan at yun nga, naging maganda yung resulta kasi nabigyan ng kaso yung mga tao na may kinalaman sa corruption. Electoral sabotage in 2004 and 2007 elections or Resolution number 537, which triggered the charges that led to the arrest and detention of former officials, including former President Gloria Arroyo. But well, hindi naman namumuliti kasi Ping Lacson, sadyang may kasalanan si Gloria Arroyo sa part na yun, no? Electoral sabotage. Yung Hello Garci chismis ata, I believe, yun. And commending resolutions. So seeks to congratulate new Cardinal and Manila Archbishop Luis Antonio Cardinal Tagle, so that is Resolution 660 during the 15th Congress. Then honoring and commending Mayor Vico Soto of Pasig City for being recognized as one of the international anti-corruption champions by the United States, or Resolution 660 during the 18th Congress. Then honoring the outstanding Philippine soldiers or TOPS of 2011, Resolution 542, and country's outstanding policemen in services or COPS of 2011 or Resolution number 562. Then Lacson, as fiscalizer in the Senate, has been unflinching in his fight against corruption and wrongdoings, exposing as well as calling for investigations of anomalous activities in the government, such as IMPSA investigation, IMPSA investigation on 2002, involvement of Mike Arroyo in the alleged $14 million bribery scandal, Jose Pidal investigation, 2003, accused Mike Arroyo of amassing more than 200 million pesos from campaign contributions and putting the money in secret bank accounts as money laundering scheme. Wetting investigation in 2005, the continued operations of wetting in the country, diversion of 728 million pesos in fertilizer funds engineered by one Jok Bolante or Hok Bolante, I don't know kung paano i-pronounce yun. The Hello Garci tapes indicating cheating in the 2004 elections, textbook scam investigations between 2006 to 2007, punishing publishers and suppliers of defective and error-laden school textbooks. So kahit yung mga school textbooks, ginawa na ring scam. Plight of Filipino nurses recruited by Sentosa Recruitment Agency, that is 2007. Alleged bribery in the failed impeachment bid against President Arroyo, so that is 2007. Overpricing in the decorative lamppost used in the ASEAN Summit in Cebu City in 2007. The botched 329 million pesos contract between the Philippine government and China's ZTE for a national broadband network project. Then irregularities in the multi-billion peso Kedancor swine program in 2008. The chopper scam, where second-hand helicopters were sold as brand new to the Philippine National Police. The plan by the SSS or Social Security System to channel workers' pension funds into a government economic stimulus program in 2009. Alleged irregularities in the purchase of video equipment for the Senate's Public Relations and Information Bureau in 2009. The Tara list or payola payoffs in the Bureau of Customs. And as usual, the pork barrel in its various incarnations. So yan. So maraming nakitang korupsyon si Ping Lacson na isinawalat niya sa ating lahat. So exposing TARA or payoff system at the Bureau of Customs. So alam naman natin sa Customs maraming ganap dyan na korupsyon. So delivered a privileged speech at the Senate on August 23, 2017, where Lacson narrated details of corruption, particularly on the TARA system or TARA system. Ano ba yung pronunciation? TARA or TARA system or bribery at the Bureau of Customs. This led to Faeldon being cited in contempt by the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee after he refused to testify in the probe on illegal drugs. On September 28, Lacson subsequently filed a complaint for graft and economic sabotage against the former Bureau of Customs Commissioner Nicanor Faeldon and several others before the Office of the Ombudsman over the alleged involvement in rice smuggling in March 2017. So actually, bigla na pumasok sa isip ko na sobrang maganda yung mga sources ni Ping Lacson na nag-feed sa kanya ng mga corruption na ito, mga activities, corrupting activities. Ano ba yung proper term? So basta, so yung meron siyang mga tao na nag-feed sa kanya ng mga information na ito kaya naisisiwalat niya especially sa kanila sa Kongreso. Then, what else? So, detailing conflict of interest at the DOH at sa PhilHealth. So, in a privileged speech on July 29, 2019, Lacson detailed how the Philippine Health Insurance Corporation or PhilHealth was spending beyond its means while its higher-ups seemed to turn a blind eye. He said this was due partly to the new reimbursement rates where PhilHealth pays per case and not by actual expenses. At yun yung nakakatakot kasi mauubos talaga yung pondo mo kasi dapat, me as an accountant, dapat kung magre-reimburse ka, yung actual expenses. Pero yun nga, ang nangyari in 2019, per case sila nagbabayad, hindi dun sa actual expenses. Kaya mauubos talaga yung pondo. Kasi yung tendency ng mga nandun, dadamihan nila yung number of cases. No wonder, itong panahon ng pandemic with COVID, na marami din akong narinig at alam ko, aware naman kayo, na may mga balita na dinadaya yung number of cases. Kasi nga, sa COVID may pera na dinadamihan yung cases na dapat kasi actual expenses naman talaga ang maging basihan ng reimbursement and all. Anyway, Lacson also bared WellMed, a company suspended for making fake benefit claims, was still receiving payments from PhilHealth. Kaya no wonder naubos ang pera or paubos ang pera ng PhilHealth dahil sa mga corruption activities na ito. Also, Lacson said the family of Health Secretary and ex-officio PhilHealth Chairman Francisco Duque III had entered into a lease agreement with PhilHealth's Region 1 office where the agency rented a building owned by the Duque family's EMDC in the Gupan City. Lacson said a general information sheet of EMDC showed Secretary Duque was among the stockholders of the company, thus indicating a conflict of interest. So ganun katalino si Ping Lacson. Or yung kanyang informer, ganun kahusay. At nakikita yung mga bagay-bagay na yan. In addition, Lacson said Doctors Pharmaceuticals Incorporated, a company owned by Secretary Duque's relatives, bids for government contracts with the DOH. The company was found in 2015 by the Food and Drug Administration of Manufacturing for other companies and was slapped a cease and desist order in June 2015. The FDA also ordered the recall of all drug products, but a tip that prompted an FDA inspection showed the firm was still operating. The FDA also found non-conformance with good manufacturing practice. The revelations triggered separate investigations by Malacanang and the Senate. Malacanang said that while Secretary Duque, who denied the allegations, still enjoys President Duterte's trust, it will not stop him from attending the congressional investigation. So yan, ito yung, kung tama ako ng pagkakaalala, ito na ata yung time na nagdrama na si Secretary Duque na wasak na ng DOH dahil sa mga paratang ng samot-saring mga tao. Yan. Then, ang pinakahuli, yan, nasa last page na po ako, pinakahuli about Ping Lacson, yung mga issues or controversies. So, syempre, yung Kuratong Baleleng case, so alam ko naging matunog din ito na naglabasan ulit yung mga fake news about this dahil nga tumatakbo si Ping Lacson sa presidency. So the group was originally established by the Botanical Youth Club in 1986 as an anti-communist vigilante group to guard against the spread of communist guerrillas in Misamis Occidental, Zamboanga del Norte, and Zamboanga del Sur provinces. The first leader, chosen directly by the military, was Octavio Ongkoy Parohinog, who allegedly used the group both for its official purpose as well as to conduct illegal activities. They were effective in driving out most of the insurgents out of these three provinces, yung Misamis Occidental, Zamboanga del Norte, Zamboanga del Sur. But during peacetime, when the military ordered them to disband, the group instead started conducting illegal activities such as contract killing, prostitution, fraud, drug trafficking, extortion, weapon trafficking, armed bank robbery, kidnapping, human trafficking, and illegal gambling. In some of the robberies, the gang's members would gun down security guards and innocent bystanders. Murder charges were filed against Lacson and his men for shooting 11 members of the Coratong Baleleng Syndicate in an operation in 1995, criticized as a rub-out. In 2003, Judge Teresa Yadaw of Quezon City Regional Trial Court dismissed the case against them for lack of probable cause. In 2012 or 2013, the Supreme Court dismissed the murder case with finality. So, in short, kinasuhan si Ping Lacson for the Coratong Baleleng case, pero sinabi ng ating korte, including the Supreme Court, na inosente si Ping Lacson. So yan, actually, kung hindi ako nagkakamali, yung Coratong Baleleng case ay lumabas ng panahon na presidente si Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. And again, correct me if I'm wrong about that. Then, the Ser Corbito or Salvador the Ser and Emmanuel Corbito murder case. Lacson went into hiding in jurisprudence on January 2010 after a local court issued a warrant for his arrest in relation to the November 2000 murder of publicist Salvador the Ser and his driver Emmanuel Corbito. Lacson denied any involvement in the killings and blamed President Macapagal Arroyo and blamed President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo's administration for persecuting him. He came out of hiding in jurisprudence on March 2011. In November of that year, the Supreme Court affirmed a Court of Appeals ruling to clear Lacson of the charges. In a 2015 interview with the media, Mancao, still a fugitive, apologized to Lacson and Estrada for linking them in the Ser Corbito murders, admitting that he had no personal knowledge on the supposed involvement of the two. He also claimed that he was forced by the Arroyo administration to implicate their names. So yan. So ganun kadumi ang Arroyo administration. I mean, lahat naman siguro ng gobyerno ay may baho at isa ito sa baho ng Arroyo administration. Then sa issue ng red tagging, So Lacson led a legislative probe in 2020 into alleged red tagging of political progressives by the security establishment. He was one of the 8 senators who condemned the red tagging of community pantries in April. So yeah, April 2020. Then sa issue ng pandemic, Lacson has called for the replacement of Health Secretary Francisco Duque III and said the government should stop relying on the private sector when it comes to the pandemic. It is pathetic. It is pathetic that our national health authorities are no different, being reactive instead of proactive. Knowing that the Delta variant has already gripped India and Indonesia, it seems they have not prepared adequately. So Lacson said on July 23, 2021, Lacson was one of the authors of RA 11469, or the Bayanihan to Heal as One Act. RA 11469, or the Bayanihan to Heal as One Act. So yan. So about pandemic kasi proactive and active ang Ping Lacson at ang kanyang uh, supporters patungkol sa pandemic. Then, yung pinaka-last issues is about the social inequality. Kapag kakampi, libre. Kapag kalaban, tutuluyan. Hindi ka magsasucceed kapag double standard ka. So, Lacson told Rappler on August 11, 2021. So, in English translation, if you're their ally, you walk free. If you're an enemy, they'll go all the way. You will not succeed if you have double standards. So, Lacson was commenting on Duterte's war on drugs and why it failed. So yun po. So yun po yung ating 14 pages or 7 back-to-back pages about Ping Lacson, about his personal life, educational background, public servant career, at sa kanyang presidential campaign, sa kanyang pagtakbo sa 2022 Presidentiables. So yan. So yun na. So naubos ko na. Parang napagod ako sa kakabasa. At ilang beses na nabulol. So yan. So again, if ever may mga comment po kayo about Ping Lacson, mga nakita nyo and all, go ahead and leave your comment on the comment section. And kung meron kayong mga idadagdag na information, aside from sa mga nabasa ko, you can go ahead and comment that on the comment section of this live. And to those who stayed until this time, maraming salamat po for staying. And for those who watch this on replay at nakaabot po until this time, maraming salamat po for watching and supporting the vlog. And again, yun na po siguro. Wala na akong maisip na sasabihin. So maraming salamat again sa lahat for supporting this program and for watching this vlog about, again, the 2022 Presidentiables, Panfilo Ping Lacson Sr. And again, as I mentioned earlier, or in the middle of the program, na sa ngayon ay si Ping Lacson po yung aking napupusuan na aking iboboto as my president sa balota. And to those na nag-iisip pa, nagdadalawang isip pa kung sino or kung gustong i-evaluate ang inyong naiisip na iboboto ngayon, you may consider Ping Lacson. He is the most qualified presidentiable ayon sa aking mga nabasa at mga pinag-aralan ng mga presidentiable. Siya po yung most qualified. So hopefully, kaya nga nang sinabi ni Ping Lacson in one of his memes na wag tayong magdepende kung sino yung popular, kung sino yung sikat sa survey and all. Dapat nating aralin kung sino nga ba talaga yung ating presidente. Kasi minsan baka ma-take for granted natin kung sino yung nararapat na nasa posisyon. And hopefully, hindi na si Ping Lacson ang isa sa, kumbaga parang hindi mangyari kay Ping Lacson yung nangyari kay Defensor Santiago, Miriam Defensor Santiago, na kumbaga best president that we never had. Sana tama yung English ko. na kung nanalo sana si Miriam Defensor Santiago, we may have a better government. But well, we don't know kasi hindi naman siya nangyari. And hopefully, again, with the case of Ping Lacson, hopefully you evaluate and check on Ping Lacson. Alam ko ang isa sa mga concern ng iba, bakit takot sila or hindi nila kinoconsider si Ping Lacson is because baka daw mangyari ulit yung martial law na nakikita ko na hindi naman concern kasi kung inaral natin yung martial law at kung anong ginawa sa 1987 Constitution, inayos na po yun, yung proseso ng pagde-declare ng martial law. Madugo na yung proseso sa pagde-declare ng martial law. Kaya hindi po agad-agad mangyayari yung martial law. Kaya again, pag-isipan mabuti, try to reconsider Ping Lacson kasi as I mentioned, and looking at his qualifications, he is the most qualified president. So yan po. So that's it for me. And looking forward na maging available po yung mga co-hosts ko sa susunod na programa natin dito sa This Is Me, Real Stories of Real People. So kita-kits po muli sa mga susunod pa nating vlogs, especially dito sa programang ito. This Is Me. So this is Epalastic signing off. And God bless to everyone. God bless to all the plastics, and apples out there.